Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So E3 has come and gone for this year, and just note that I had every intention of bringing you this video within a week of E3, but then my body had other plans and an injury that I'd been fighting since early in the year came back with a vengeance and I'd been stuck in bed for 3 weeks. So now that I'm on the mend, I wanted to just let you know that I have a good amount of content lined up. So my June content that I was excited about sharing will now be my July content. So that's the bad news and good news, but I'm definitely feeling better and ready to finally give my opinion on E3 this year. One thing I like about the direction that the event's been going is that they've been pushing the press conferences further and further into the weekend, which is great for me and anyone who either works full-time or goes to school so that we can catch everything live. So the event kicked off with the EA show, which, truth be told, isn't always my cup of tea. I'm not really that interested in learning about FIFA 19, 20, 21, 22, and so on and so forth. The best part about the EA show was that it showed more about Anthem. Now, if anyone's been familiar with the Mass Effect franchise in the past couple years, it didn't really do that well with Andromeda. In the end, the team got very rushed, so the product that was put out was not the same as the first 3 Mass Effect games. But Anthem might go ahead and change that, and it might do some really good things for BioWare Studios. It looks like a very immersive space game that you can play with your friends, so I'm very excited about that. That was the main takeaway of the EA conference for me. The next press conference was Microsoft, which I was very pleasantly surprised by. So with the Xbox One, it's really been plagued by not having a lot of exclusive games. They've gotten a machine that can now play up to 4K, but at the same time, a lot of the games that they play on it look very dated. So this year, they said that they acquired a lot of independent game companies, which I feel is a fabulous direction for them, and they announced over 50 games, a lot of them being exclusive. So it was game after game after game, with some very strong announcements for this year. Now, I loved the last generation of Xbox. I loved Xbox 360 a lot. So it was something that made me very happy because I've been kind of disappointed with the Xbox One and its performance so far. So the fact that they've made these acquisitions, they're really paying tribute to their indie developers, which makes me over the moon happy because I know how hard they work to create some great content. And now that they're going to be recognized by Xbox, it's a great relief and it will be wonderful for the Xbox One. So the first big announcement that I was excited about personally during Microsoft was Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, which is the newest game by From Software. So that's not exactly going to be the Souls-like experience that we as From Software fans were expecting, but it looks like a great new direction that FromSoft is going into. Now, I'm going to go into more details on what's it about and go over the trailer a little bit in a future video. I'd like to talk about the new games that From Software is releasing, including Deracine, which is one that I'm actually very excited about. I'm not even that into VR, but it looks like a really charming game. So just by playing Dark Souls 3 and reading the lore, I got the strong message that From Software doesn't want to do that exact type of game anymore. The recurring theme of Dark Souls 3, where it's laying everything to rest and encouraging the fire to fade, is like saying, hey, Dark Souls has had its time. It is an amazing franchise. Let's try something new. So I think that Sekiro is From Software's response to that and the way that they are going to be able to move forward. I personally am very excited about the direction. It looks like a very beautiful and intriguing game with some great arm mechanics. It looks to me like the hook shot from Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which is one of my favorite just in-game weapons. So I'm excited to see what they come up with. Another one which a lot of fans have been waiting on for a very long time, and honestly I was surprised to see this at Microsoft of all places, was Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, if you've been a long-time Kingdom Hearts fan, you know that the wait between Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3 has been long as it's been arduous. They've been releasing smaller games on handheld consoles, but the problem that I have with it was that they kept releasing new games on different consoles, so you had to have the PSP, you had to have the Nintendo DS, you had to have all those different systems, and then you were forced to play through the same Disney world over and over again. By Birth by Sleep, personally, I got quite tired of that. So with me, there's been a big gap between Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3. Obviously, I'm gonna brush up on my lore, but just the fact that they are going forward with that, the fact that it looks like a very top-notch game that's styled just right is very exciting. When they went into the Pirates of the Caribbean world, all of the graphics looked very, very high quality, whereas you go into something like the Toy Story world, it's very stylized. It sounds like the game itself is staying true to its roots by paying homage to its old styles from Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 while evolving a little bit. So that's something I'm really, really excited about as an old-ass fan of Kingdom Hearts, where the first one came out while I was in high school and now I am in my 30s. So I think that people who enjoy the series are going to be pretty excited about this new release. Another title that I'm excited about for the exact same reasons is Devil May Cry 5. So it's been 10 years since the release of Devil May Cry 4, which was a beautiful game. It was a little bit different. So some people were upset with Devil May Cry 4 because through about half of the game you had to play as a brand new character named Nero, who has some mysterious ties to Dante and Virgil. But with me personally, by the time you play as Dante again, you realize how fun playing with Nero is. So it gets to be a very dynamic game where you get to know this brand new character and you get to play as awesome kick-ass Dante again. And seeing those characters all over again in Devil May Cry 5 makes me so happy. I wasn't really into the reboot that much. I didn't play it. It just didn't spark my interest the same way that the original series did. So the fact that they're going forward and just brushing that under the rug and going forward with Devil May Cry 5 makes me incredibly excited. I'm so excited to see Dante, hopefully Lady, Nero, and the whole gang all over again with the hyper-realistic graphics. I'm over the moon. And although they announced a whole lot of games during Microsoft, the other game that I am the most excited about is Cyberpunk 2077. That's made by CD Projekt Red, the same creators as the Witcher series. So Cyberpunk 2077 is a very, very exciting announcement. It'll be great to see them going into that future cyberpunk look, just like something like Blade Runner. Not only is that the type of story that people have really been into since the 1980s, but I think it's time that we have even more dynamic titles like that. So another developer that I thought knocked it clean out of the park was Bethesda. Now I have a special soft spot in my heart for Bethesda. They not only gave me excellent games like Morrowind, Oblivion, the whole Fallout series, and Skyrim, but last year they also made a personal dream of mine come true by inviting Ginger and I to their conference. Now they decked their entire conference out to look like an amusement park. Now I remember the year they announced it was either Skyrim or Elder Scrolls Online, and they had a Elder Scrolls themed bar that they showed all the people that were at the conference going to at the end, and I was sitting there years ago thinking, one day I'm gonna do that. And then last year I got to do that. They had an entire amusement park section all decked out to look like all of their games, so you could go and get a pint of beer over at the Elder Scrolls section, you could look at the Doom section. So although they didn't have anything like that this year, their announcements made up for it tenfold. Now everyone was wondering when they announced Fallout 76, why did they do that before the conference? It was such a strange thing that they announced such a grand title before the big show even happened. So there were whispers among my social media networks saying, do you think that because they announced that maybe they're gonna announce new things? So we were holding on the hope that they would. Been basically starved for years for an announcement for something like the Elder Scrolls 6 or something brand new. And we were not disappointed this year. So in addition to talking a good amount about their new titles such as Rage 2, Fallout 76, and a new Wolfenstein DLC, they also talked about how they are creating Elder Scrolls 6, and they're also creating a brand new title called Starfield. That's something that I'd heard the title of and I've heard rumors about it happening, but we hadn't seen anything about that before. So last year Todd was just the butt of all jokes because he didn't say anything about Elder Scrolls 6. But I know that that's because they want to not talk about it until they have something polished and ready for us to play. I think this year, Todd kind of knew that he was the butt of every joke last year, so he joked with everybody. They even had a hilarious sketch with Keegan-Michael Key with Skyrim Special Edition with him talking to Alexa.
I ate all of the cheese.
It was so funny and charming that although we didn't think that we'd ever want to play Skyrim again after that, I want to play Skyrim Special Edition for Alexa. So the moment that Elder Scrolls 6 was announced, Gingy, my partner, and I went nuts. We opened up a bottle of champagne that we had stored for a full year just to celebrate the fact that we're getting a new Elder Scrolls. We're both very dedicated to the series. She fell in love with it with Morrowind, and she introduced it to me with Oblivion, and then it sucked up so much of my time. I'm sure she had regrets. It has been a part of our lives for well over a decade, so the fact that they're continuing on with Elder Scrolls 6 was just a knockout moment for me. That was the highlight of E3, in my opinion. So the next press conference after that was Ubisoft. Ubisoft in general is a studio that I have a mild at best interest in, usually. They create some games that are very interesting, whereas other times you know pretty reliably that they're going to create a new Assassin's Creed game every year, so the fact that they do that year by year usually bores me. But this year I was not disappointed. They started out with a bang with Beyond Good and Evil 2, which to me looked very different from the first title. So they also ended up talking about Tom Clancy's The Division 2, so that was another strong title that they were going over during Ubisoft. And in addition, they announced some new Rabbids and Mario games and a new Star Fox game, which was kind of surprising because normally you'd see that in the Nintendo conference. I was happy just to see Miyamoto on screen. He always warms my heart. I absolutely adore him. Now, the last game that I wanted to talk about with Ubisoft is the new Assassin's Creed. Although normally I'm extremely skeptical about them announcing a new Assassin's Creed year after year, especially a few years ago they had a trailer with absolutely no women in it whatsoever. Since then I've had a love-hate relationship with Ubisoft in general just because I didn't think that they were aware of their demographic or the people who wanted to play their games, and they really just fed into what they thought what their demographic was. However, this year, I was blown away. I was very excited to see the new Assassin's Creed. You could play as a male or a female assassin, which I think is a fabulous direction that they go into, and I think that for once they're seeing the demographic of people who play their games. Statistically, just about 50% of gamers are women, although we don't always say something about it because, you know, duh, harassment. The fact that you have a strong character like Cassandra, which is the female choice of assassin, was extremely exciting to me. What I learned later is that you can romance anybody, so if you are a guy who likes guys or a lady who likes ladies, you can do that in Assassin's Creed, or anything in between. It's a really awesome way that Ubisoft is just getting into the 21st century. For the first time in forever, I was genuinely excited to see an Assassin's Creed game, which is a big deal for me. So kudos and hats off to you, Ubisoft. So now we'll go into the conferences that I didn't feel had quite as strong of a presence. So let's start with Sony on that. Sony started off strong with lesbians. And I'll talk about that a little bit. I think I know what direction they wanted to go in. It seemed that they wanted the crowd to have that full atmosphere. The first part of the conference was in a church that looked just like the preview to The Last of Us 2, which is the first game that they announced. Now, that looked fabulous. So they're going into the female character's story a little bit more, delving into her past and the horrific present that she's going into. Now, I did want to make a comment about the crowd that I saw right after the preview where she was kissing her girlfriend. They stood dumbfounded, dead silent, and honestly horrified looking, which honestly, like, Sony, invite me next time. I'm going to be so excited to see something like that. I was just disappointed, not so much with Sony, but with the crowd of people that were there who were somehow shocked that she is either a lesbian or bisexual character, because it was announced on a previous DLC that that character had had a girlfriend before. So if they thought that they were into Last of Us and yet they didn't know that, it's like, yeah. But hats off to Sony for at least going into that a little bit further. I'm personally excited. The thing that bugged me about the conference is that in between they led the crowd from that venue to a different one, which caused about a 20-minute gap between any of their conferences. So all of us who had been essentially waiting a year to see all these new big announcements, the fact that they made us wait that long was kind of aggravating. And in addition, they didn't allow the developers to go up on stage and speak about their games, which is something that I look forward to. I like seeing the people behind it, seeing how they are, you know, even their stress levels. And it lets me know that there is a human face behind all these games. So I think that they really missed an opportunity. I understand that they wanted the games to speak for themselves, but still it's good to show those people and give them a moment to talk about what they love to do. The good thing though is that they announced some solid titles, like Ghost of Tsushima, Resident Evil 2, Neo 2, and Deracine, which is the other FromSoft title that they introduced during the press conference. That one's a VR title, and it looked like it had a very quiet, simple elegance. It's set in what looks like a 19th century boarding school. So to me that's exciting because I personally love history. I'm not big on the VR system because I get nauseous, but all in all it looked like a very charming game. The one game that I think we all were waiting for during Sony was more about Death Stranding. So before the show, we were all sitting there on the edge of our seats going, oh, I can't wait to know more about Death Stranding. But then by the end, I have more questions than I did before. That's what makes Death Stranding as a title so intriguing though. Nobody really knows what's going on yet, and the more we see, the more questions we have. Kojima assured us all that we will know what's going on when we start playing, so that's going to be an exciting one either to play or to watch if you're into watching your friends or logging on and watching someone do a Twitch stream. So moving on to the Nintendo, the announcements were mostly lukewarm except for one. They did talk about a new Dragon Quest, which is pretty exciting, new Fire Emblem, and then they went into Super Smash Bros. Now the great part of that is that they went into detail about how they're having every single Smash character that they ever had in the series in this game. That'll make any Smash fan very, very excited about it. For me, I enjoy Smash, but I thought that they really missed out on talking about some of their newer titles, like Bayonetta 3. So Bayonetta is one of my favorite game series, and I think that they really missed an opportunity by not talking about it. In addition to their new Yoshi game, they talked about it last year, but there's no news on how it's doing this year, so we'll have to wait until another Nintendo Treehouse Live to learn about it. I just think that if they talked about it a little more at their E3 conference, it would have spiced it up and not just talked about Smash. Finally, we have Square Enix. It was surprisingly dull. Even though they had talked about Kingdom Hearts 3 during the Microsoft conference, they didn't talk about it very much more during their time that they had aired. In addition to that, we learned nothing new about the new Final Fantasy VII reboot. And all they really had that was half exciting was the fact that they're bringing Nier Automata to the Xbox One, but I've already played Nier Automata. I'm still traumatized from it. Well, my top picks for this year in terms of companies, I thought that Bethesda, Microsoft, and Ubisoft really were smash hits. Whereas the way I felt about the remaining companies ranged from neutral to disappointed. I thought all in all though that this was a very strong year for E3. I mean, anytime that they announce a new Elder Scrolls, something like a new BioWare game or a new From Software game, I'm going to get very, very hyped. So the coming year looks like a great one in terms of brand new games that we're going to enjoy. So what were your favorite parts and some of your least favorite parts of E3? I'd love to know what you think in the comment section below. Like and subscribe to my channel for some of the next videos that I have coming out. So I have a new game review planned, as well as talking in more depth about Sekiro Shadows Die Twice and Deracine, which is the other From Software game that they're going to come out with. So I hope you have a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you on my next one. With the Microsoft One, a new character called Nero for about half of the game. Rude.